this, 400th century thing that women, when they have babies or when they want to get married or whatever, right? They are
Any
going
life
to.
transition. We're doing.
Yes, exactly.
But
So I think we also have that. We need to support other women as well. We need to be able to nominate and cheer for women that are pregnant that are up for a promotion. We know they're leaving for 3, 6, a year if you're in Canada. Whatever the amount, we need to cheer for them to be promoted before they get on mat leave.
Agreed. And I think one more thing about tech, I don't think I've ever seen any other industry who is as network based. People hire who they know. They go to school out of Stanford, out of Yale, out of Georgetown, and then they keep each other growing as they build companies and as they, sell off companies. And so specifically, one of the things we're aiming for at Mentor is for women to have that same sort of fabric, not just in tech, but in every domain. Right. We also, to your point, we don't just need to sponsor each other. We need to grow together.
Right. One thing as well is that companies internally, they tend to, or at least the companies that I work with, they tend to promote job openings from within, and also referrals from within. So if I see a Latina and I recommend a Latina, there's a dynamic there going on. So if you can recommend a woman, if you can recommend a person in your sector, that is great too as well.
Yeah. I definitely, if I could jump in on this topic, I actually have, my background in tech is actually from an arts integration standpoint. So I'm actually trained in user experience design and research. So experiential design and all of that. And essentially it's super important. And so there's an organization, if y'all aren't familiar with, it's called Afrotech. If you're familiar with Afrotech, based in California. And it's just amazing at just making sure that information around jobs and access to tech related opportunities, tech related jobs and all of that. And having somebody with a background in political science and international relations and psychology, because we know that everything we do is steeped in the socio-political culture, right? And so having someone to be able to understand the tech speak, but also to be able to be the liaison between the person that doesn't know how they can get into tech, but showing those transferable skills from other roles. I talked about experimental psychology before, or even having a background in psychology and anthropology. Some of the best people that worked in the tech space, from the performance management, or for the program director, or for the project manager, were people with anthropology, political science, and international relations degrees. The technical part is teachable. Beyond IT, beyond whatever, anybody can code. And some of the major tech companies that I worked for from a business development standpoint, when I was doing consulting, when I was in Atlanta and the Virgin Islands, a lot of those, we know this, a lot of those are very white male dominated space, in the sense of who are the startup, the people who start up, the founders or whatever. Most of them were high school graduates or dropped out of college. And so it's just now there's this, especially for women, this idea that you have to have a PhD or in whatever, or a master's or a bachelor's, even when there's people who are working as multi-million-dollar salaries with high school degrees. And it's just no, let's talk about the actual technical skill set. And can we just get off of the exceptionalism for women, and especially for BIPOC women, as it relates to their white male counterpart who just has a college degree barely. So yeah,
we touched on so many good topics. There's actually a documentary coming out around the Atlanta tech scene, specifically Blacks in Tech. And the documentary is around the fact that tech can lead to upward social mobility.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm not necessarily of the belief.
For sure, yeah.
Yeah, I'm not necessarily of the belief that anybody can code. In fact, I think men and women actually code differently. Certainly, my co-founder has taught me that. But what is different about the coding is actually part of the fabric of building a company. So for instance, when you write code, you can do it the messy way, so it's not replicable, or you can do it the annotated way so that you scale up a business and you train and you mentor the people behind you. Women are community focused. Yes. And when women code, they code that way. And so as you're
that's the inclusive thing, right?
That's right.
The actual making sure in the service design space, and making sure from internally and externally it's accessible.
And women tend to want feedback. Some will call us insecure sometimes. Others think, we just want words back. Creating that feedback loop makes your tech-based company better. These are the kinds of things that until you build a tech company with a woman, you don't know.
Yeah. That's why user experience design is super important at the beginning and researching before you just put together a company that you think people want, but you didn't ask.
That's right.
Yeah.
Nita and Vanessa, you both talked a little bit about an income gap between where women are in business versus where men are in business. What we see from a mentorship standpoint at SCORE, something that we see is that women will often invest their own money into their idea and get it like launched behind the scenes before they actually go to public launch to then ask for money. Whereas men will usually go get the money and then launch the idea. Why do you think that there's that like reversal, and what do you think we can do to help women do the ask first before doing the work behind the scenes?
I think I'll jump in. What you mentioned about a concept design phase, a lot of women don't know how much R&D credits there are. Like that research and development time. In other words, before we built our app, we built the database so that we could understand what different segments of women actually wanted on a flywheel. And that took hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of calls to be able to segment out the different categories within women that the technology would service and benefit. In other words, understanding your value prop actually takes a full 10 to 12 months. When men build companies, or certainly the men in health tech and the companies I've been a part of, they don't do that R&D. They do the business plan so that they copy and paste somebody else's business. They go to a VC and they say, hey, that company was able to IPO. I think I can do that too. Give me $2 million. I actually, as an angel investor, will not give money to anybody that hasn't put a little money of their own. And that's just being honest. But I think that, where SCORE can help is really laying out the pathway that you don't really need a lot of money in your first stage. You can do crowd equity. You can get on republic.co. You can start easily getting a pathway for smaller funds so that your R&D can actually be done the right way and then launch.
Yeah. Yes. And so I love it. The reason I'm so excited about this is because Vanessa is talking the actual tech speak. And so I work in the space between human-centered design and human capital management. So then I do the people focus, right? The actual external audience. This is making me so giddy. I'm so nerdy about this.
We can tell, Nita. Don't worry.
Great. That's how you know it's real.
I know.
So from that standpoint, and your question, Jessica, like why do women try to? It's rooted in perfectionism, which is rooted in a systemic issue, which is rooted in patriarchy, right? Because our society tells us that you have to be pulled together in everything before you go out, right? But then just from a social standpoint, right? But then in the workspace, it's the same thing, which is why women tend to under ask when it comes to the salary requirements and things like that, right? And so I think what it comes down to is from a advocacy and ally standpoint, instead of talking more about what women need to do in that regard, is that the men in the space who know that needs to shift and change, is what they need to do. They need to be more honest about their approach to things so that it is more equitable, because I try to steep everything and I do from a social and racial equity space. So what that means is if you are a white male, one of my closest best friends, and he's actually my daughter's godfather, he is the customer experience director for Microsoft. And I actually was his business coach for him to get that role. So it's Todd is the quintessential white male. We went to high school together and his hobbies were hunting, fishing, and mud bogging, legit. That is on his senior class note. And I still mess with him to this day about it.
I'm going to need to know what mud bogging means.
Hunting, fishing, and mud bogging. He's from Savannah. It's a Savannah thing. Girl, you got to get with it. So
give it a few more weeks, Vanessa. We'll get you out there. It'll be fine.
I know what it is.
But
anyway, no, the point is that Todd, to be in such a role that he's in, he's worked for IBM, he has that degree in experimental psychology, Georgia Southern rooted in all of his education. But when Todd is in spaces and he feels and senses any small sense of microaggression around his male counterparts as it relates to women in the organization, he'll say, Sarah was talking. Can we hear what she has to say? Or wait a minute. She just said that 5 minutes ago. That was not your idea, bro. That's Todd. And it's just like, we need more of that. And the way that happens is more women have to be more honest with them about the foolishness and be okay with getting the backlash of like, oh, she's being sensitive. Actually, no, I'm being equitable. I'm wanting to make the space more equitable. So I think we should have more conversation about how men need to be more, you know what I mean? Like intentional and thoughtful about how they're operating in the space as well. Because we can only do so much.
Right. But we can do so much.
Right. But
we can only do so much.
What we can, but we need them to like.
We certainly do. But then let me give you to your point before. I think also, I'm the type of person that if there's a forum and I have an opinion, I will raise my voice. Mm-hmm. But I notice other women as well that do not.
Yes.
So I usually behind the scenes, I'm chatting or whatever, like, what do you think about this? And if they have an important point, I will raise my voice. I will raise my hand, right? And then say, so-and-so has a very important point that she was sharing. That's A. B, something else is that sometimes they actually are shy. You cannot force that. You have to be very, very cognizant of that. I raise my hand, I voice the idea, and I give them credit.
Yes. That's
so it's like little by little we can
it's like
do
we going, not
yes,
going.
exactly. So, and I absolutely, and one thing to your point before around, having those spaces, when we need to be more, I'll give you a couple of stats. Jess, I told you I have great stats, positive ones. So despite only like give or take 25% of women business owners seeking business financing, women, especially in tech, since we were talking about tech before, private tech companies led by women achieve a 35% higher ROI than men-led private tech companies. That's one. So keep that in mind.
Research first and do specific targeting.
So, and second, right. And another great statistic is that women have a 69.5% success rate in crowdfunding businesses, starting businesses, as opposed to 61.4. That's 8.1% in difference than male guys crowdfunding, right? So one thing that I think we have to value from the fact that we're faced with all these challenges is that we have to recognize and cheer and get and promote and amplify the fact that even though we work differently, we're way more effective. So
you touched on an important area on the on funding. And I will say, having been a part of 3 health tech companies, one IPO'd, one raised $800 million, these male-led companies performed very well and were never financially starved. In other words, the reason contracts didn't get fulfilled or the staffing didn't happen was never about did they have enough money. Whereas female companies are different. They stay regional, they iterate, they grow more slowly. And I struggle with this one personally, which is why I started investing. Not just because I do think everyone needs to see women like us model risky behavior. Certainly I have a personal rags to riches story. I think other people on this call too. And if it's not us that show that risky behavior, then who can they look to?
Yeah.
But the other part about funding, over the years, I know I've kind of felt a personal calling that more needs to be done in this space. The rolling grant programs are great, and I sit as an advisor on a lot of them, but there are 2,000, there's 10,000. I can't even hire one graphic designer for that. So really, I'm growing into getting to know basically every venture capital group that actually cares about women and equity in this space, specifically in healthcare, femtech, and some other arenas. But totally invite all of you ladies to help grow that part with me, because we need to have a bigger financial base to not just give money away, but to guide women to grow and scale companies bigger than they're dreaming about right now.
Yeah. And I can definitely echo that from an overall women in the entrepreneurship space in general, even just beyond tech, is one of the things I say from a coaching standpoint and the connecting piece is I say, like, I want women, especially women from low to moderate income and marginalized spaces. I want you to be able to have conversations about money and business development and all of that, not just from a place of confidence, but from a place of competence, right? Because there are a lot of people who are doing business that are very confident, loud and wrong, or unethical business practices and things like that. But it's just like having your dossier and to know what your pain points are. So when someone tries to use that against you, you can say, yes, my credit score was that in this phase, whatever I was going through this life transition, but now I am actually developing it by doing this. So it's showing them that that people have different, happenings in life, but you have the ability, just like businesses have ups and downs and ebbs and flows, the same thing works from a personal development standpoint. And I'm one of those people where I feel like there is no separation of people in business. There's no such thing as personal development and then professional development. You are who you are holistically. That's how people think that they can be like all of this stand-up person in business and then go home and be like harmful and racist on the street and then come to work and everybody knows. It's like, that was you, Jim. What do you mean? Like, what do you mean? You are you are. But no, it's like, so in that same vein, it's like, how
was Jim mudbogging?
Go ahead.
Was Jim mudbogging?
Just a general name. It's not connected. But no, the point is that like it's super important because I think just hearing you talk about how you do funding from a VC standpoint is that it's not just about the idea, but it's about the person that's doing the work and how their actual integrity is going to keep the business and the actual industry intact. And I think we deserve more of that. From the past few years, especially with like the socio-cultural and the socio-political space and how it shifted, I think a lot of people are craving more authenticity as a whole.
I think Whitney on this call today, she embodies leading into business with that confidence and with that knowledge. And so that I still, Whitney, you can talk about this way better than I can, but something that the first time Whitney and I met, I asked her, because Whitney owns a NPO, and then she also owns a for-profit business, but she started the NPO before her for-profit business. And I think that really shows the confidence that she has, because so many times you will start a business that's for-profit and then have a spinoff of a nonprofit because you see a need that needs to be fulfilled. And so when I asked Whitney, first time we met, I was like, so when you talk to people, do you talk about your NPO or do you talk about your for-profit? And she said, I always lead with my NPO. And Whitney, I think that just speaks to the confidence that you lead and the empathy that you lead into your daily business life as a woman.
I think it's really, I was listening to everyone talking, and on my end, I'm seeing a little bit of a lag, so I've been kind of quiet, but I wanted to hear and soak in everything that you guys are saying. But I find it funny because like even in the child welfare sector, in the nonprofit sector, the ones that are working on the ground are predominantly women. The ones that are in leadership and executive board positions are the males. And I thought it was very funny. I remember one day I was sitting down and I was speaking with a director, one of the directors of DFACS, and I had, I was talking to him. I had a male counterpart next to me, and it was my words that were coming out, but he subconsciously was looking at my male counterpart, nodding his head and answering. And then I leaned over and I was like, hey, it's me. It's right here. It was me talking, and he just started to say, I'm so sorry. And I was like, yeah, no, it's okay. I just didn't know, like, if you realize that was me talking or there's something going on, if you need more coffee for the day. I'm a firm believer on nonprofit or for-profit. Even a nonprofit functions as a business. It just has a tax write-off, and you must do it with integrity. You must do it right. You must be able to, do not be ashamed in paying your team. Do not be ashamed in paying yourself. You must be able to talk about financial stability before you can expect anything else. I think as a woman in nonprofit, that's very important to me, because a lot of times, just like moms, like everything you guys listed out, moms, like we work, we feed, we clean, we cook, we buy things, we run errands, and then you're paying tips for somebody that works in Instacart that delivers food for you, but you don't get paid for that, so I always it's really funny because I have what I call courageous conversations with people all the time. I'm not afraid to hold back. I'm a sharpshooter. I say what I say. And if you disagree, I'll be more than happy to go over that with you. But, at the end of the day, I feel like men are empowered to be bold. Women are empowered to just simply serve. And I'm not a believer in that, I think it's funny. I don't know if this is even appropriate to say, but I think in my head, I'm like, women are so strong that our economy has recognized, even in the pandemic, with the money being given out, it's for women. It's for the women that needs to go back into the serving sector, into the restaurants, into the grocery stores, into the predominantly women field, because those are the ones that are suffering. And then for women, we are so strong and powerful that we have babies right now that are currently making income for the child tax credit in 2021. Look at that. We bring up just equity. And it's about time that we get respected for that. Yeah. A lot of people in the nonprofit sector, they're just like, okay, well, because it's, like I said, it's women served. Okay, well, it gets really funky when we're talking about pay. It gets really funky when we're talking about who gets what. No, you work full time for this. Get paid for it. I need you to get paid for it. What would you like for your salary? Because we need to discuss that, because you're going to want to get paid when I have to call you at 2 or 3 in the morning to run to an emergency. And I want your children to be stable. I understand that. So let's go ahead and get the crowdfunding necessary and pitch it. And if for anybody who can't understand that, I wonder why you would pay a male doctor so much money for his inconvenience, but you're not willing to pay a child welfare worker that is a woman at the same inconvenience, if not more, before they have to bother you at a hospital. So I'm very passionate about that, but that was my 2 cents.
You are?
Are we going there?
Absolutely.
I'm from Washington, D.C., and I lived in Maryland as well. So that's my
Yeah. That's what's up. No, in all honesty, like the money and the funding part, like I actually used to sit on the Economic Development Council for United Way. And I worked for United Way Atlanta and Savannah region. Chatham Coastal Empire. It's so funny when people we used to go out and talk about where the money's going. People didn't want to pay the staff. It was just so squeamish how people are like, oh, well, is it going to the organization or is it going to the program? I'm like, actually, you should go to both, but yeah. It's like, who do you think is going to be building out and writing and running the programming? The people.
And by the way,
that's why I say, like, yeah, you got to sit in the space between, like I said, the human-centered design and the human capital management. The human capital are the assets, the people in the organization. Your bottom line you can't affect your bottom line without the people there. So how are you going to forget about the people? I'm so confused. So yes, Whitney, we need all the money for all the people all the time.
I always say there's no program without, being able to actually pay the people that are working the program. I bring up the fact that, churches are nonprofits. Some pastors get paid really well, sometimes they even get a house along with it. Professors and universities, that's a nonprofit. Hospitals are nonprofits. There are a lot of nonprofits around here that are male-centric, and nobody questions pay, because for one reason or another, when it's a male that's in the workforce, you bring up money and pay, it just makes sense. But then when a woman brings it up, it's going to be actually used. Is it going to be what? Wait, is it going to be properly used? We properly work our houses. We keep a household together. We are the queens of fund allocating,
I hear all of that. And by the way, those same rules apply when venture capital is looking to fund business plans. Like they're looking into what exactly is in your administrative line item. Do you know how much data scientists cost? Do you know how much technology costs? Instead of finding that many companies actually don't know the infrastructure of what they have to pay and how to keep employees over time. And so if the return on investment expectation is 3 to 5 years, you can't have staff turnover every freaking year and drain my money to do all that. Mm-hmm. So the concept of understanding how to pay people and how to be paid is actually a signal of how mature you are as a business person. So I just want to clarify that applies to nonprofits, for-profits, ourselves, all of it.
Absolutely.
Yes, absolutely.
And definitely in talking about people, of course, that's one of the things that Global Business Development Strategist does is work with people with human resource needs. And so your human resources department, even if you don't have one, we oftentimes talk about how you want to really step out and find the resources that you need if you don't have them internally. So it's important to be able to identify what your people needs are in order to actually meet your mission. And so if you're not doing that, and you're doing that on the front end, it makes it very difficult for you to then to try to work through the process after the fact of knowing exactly who you need on your team and what it's going to cost you to have that person on your team. Not just what you're going to pay them on a day-to-day basis, but what the overall compensation and benefit plan should look like. So being able to identify that and build that into your budget and your line item is really important. And one of the things that I've been sitting quiet, but one of the things that you were talking about that really sparked my interest was the fact of, look at a lot of times startup. And I'm going to use myself as an example. When I started my business, I was one of those women that did not want to go to a financial institution and ask for money, because I just, with the past experiences of watching other women that had done the same thing, they did not get funded. And so what did I do? I funded my business from my 401k. Instead of walking into a bank and being turned down, I was afraid to do that. And so now what I do from a mentorship standpoint, I tell people, listen, know what your value proposition is, understand who your customer base is you're going after, and determine the pathway to get there, and create a business plan. We always talk about these business plans and how they're used for funding, but people don't all the time understand how powerful that plan is in creating something that you can sell to a venture capitalist, or you can sell to a financial institution or a CDFI. Understanding what your value proposition is and your target market is what's going to help to get you funded. If I would have done that, I probably would have felt a whole lot more confident walking into a bank, because I knew my craft. I knew exactly who my target audience was, but just that whole fear inside of feeling, of being told no, because we don't like no, right? So we rather put ourselves at an inconvenience than to be told no. But now I'm not there in that space anymore. So anytime that I want to expand within business, guess what? I'm going to someone that can actually fund my idea of what the idea might be.
I love that. And I'm going to get super, super honest. I struggled with that same thing. And I had to go to a life coach, because I was like, what is this block that I have? Because if I, with 2 graduate degrees and 3 companies behind me, am not confident, then how can I ask anybody that works for me or a mentor to be confident? And what I realized is, for me, I had a real fear of poverty. There were 5 of us who grew up in a 2-bedroom apartment. People made fun of my parents for their accents. I had to push.
Did we live the same life,
I had to push my broke down car out of a drive-through at a fast food agency. I mean, there's real stigma around the moments that you have when you grow up poor. And suddenly to expose yourself and tell people I'm poor in this way, because really business people who start businesses are typically not poor, but it is that trigger, right, that connects back to poverty that is so real. I don't know. I would love to hear others on that.
Yes. I can definitely co-sign for that. So I grew up, like I said, right here in Savannah, youngest of 5, single mom by choice. And I say by choice because my mom had been married 2 or 3 times before. And by the time my dad came along, she was just like, yeah, I'm good. I'm good. But no, I grew up right in Fraser Home, right on MLK. And I tell people it's adjacent to where the Honorable Senator Warnock grew up in Cadenhome. And it's so funny when people talk about downtown Savannah and when I see it developing around me, and I'm like, I remember there was a time when none of this looked like this, and where, you know what I mean? I think people just drive by Fraser Home and they don't even know it exists. But that was our world. But my point is, for you in the poverty piece is yes, I was the smart kid in the house, right? Where I got shipped across town to the South Side school and was made fun of for my parents not dropping me off, and then when I would come home was made fun of for getting shipped on a bus to go to school, right? And so that poverty mindset of that actually added to my perfectionism, where it's okay, I have to be good enough here, but then also there, but then I have to be a chameleon. And I think that's actually the good thing about me, because I've figured out how to move in so many different spaces, you know what I mean? And so it's so for you talking about the life coach, understanding how that fear of poverty can actually propel you to be confident in knowing you ain't going back, right? So that's all the more reason why you should ask, because we were in a place where it wasn't our place. But now it's like, no, I have the ownage. I have all of these things or whatever. And I know that I can, and I can talk about it. And I can actually empower other people, other women to understand that like that's one space and time of your life. And that fear of going back or whatever, if anything, use it as a tool to propel you to move forward and to empower other people to know that it does not have to be, that doesn't have to live free and rent free in your mind. It's just it's a part of your story, and that's it. So no, I totally get it. And to actually talk about the Women's Business Center in the same vein with Elisa was saying about understanding what your value proposition is, understanding what your target audience is. And I tell women, and I say, hey, listen, understanding, that's the competence part. Understanding if you go into a bank versus to a CDFI versus to your uncle versus to whoever, you have to understand how they want, the type of person they want to give money to. And if you want to be able to be financeable, you have to do the steps that it takes to reconcile to get you to that place. Because I think with a lot of women, we think that our passion is enough to get us there, right? And although it is beautiful, unfortunately, it is not, right? You have to be like, okay, I want $10,000. Where am I going to get this other match from? This other $10,000, because I know that for this company, they're not going to give me $10,000 if I haven't already made $10,000 in my business. So that's the research thing. Understanding, and this is my background in human intelligence collection and military intelligence. You have to know who you need to build rapport with to get what you want from them. So understand what the ask is going to be before you get in there. You don't want to go in there surprised, like, I didn't know I had to do that. You're already going to go armed and equipped with what you need so they can say yes. And they're like, oh my goodness, you're perfect. You're like, I know, because I did all that research.
I think one of the really cool things is that our community has programs like the WBC, like SCORE, and it gives us all an opportunity to, stand on our platform and help others and bring them up and, sit on top of the mountain with all of the rest of our community. And something we have coming up at SCORE is our second annual Women in Business event. And Sorrel, Delisa, and Whitney have been on the planning committee for it. Do you guys want to talk a little bit about that event and what's coming up and what women can expect?
It's going to be great.
They have to attend. Everybody, every woman, that is in business it doesn't matter if you've been in business for long. You can be a mentor. You can always get a new perspective from another woman in business. So it's an event that will benefit everyone, all attendees.
Yeah. And I agree, Whitney and Sorrel, this is going to be an opportunity that you don't want to miss, because you not only have an opportunity to attend from a virtual standpoint, but you can also attend in person. And I think one of the greatest takeaways from this type of event, it allows you not only to come and get the professional development that you need, but it also allows you to network. So you'll be in the presence of other women that you might share ideas and even some of the challenges that you're experiencing in the business. And, you never know who's there that you can connect with to help to grow your business. So this is an opportunity on September the 7th, I think it is.
Yes.
That you definitely don't want to miss. Go out there and get registered and come prepared. Bring your digital business card, bring your physical business card, so that you can actually walk away with valuable information and connect with someone that can help you grow your business to the next level.
Whitney, do you kind of want to walk through all of the different topics and the format of the event?
Give me 1 second. My end is actually lagging. So
no problem. So I'll have Sorrel. Sorrel, do you want to kind of go through all of the different topics? And
yeah, let me quickly pull it up right here. And then the most important thing to understand is that this will give us the opportunity. We haven't had the chance, the vast majority of us haven't had the chance to attend an event in person, a networking event. So we've limited to family and friends, right? So we want to make sure that we continue to develop, and especially if you're newer in business, you are developing these relationships. So for the we have a few topics that we want to that we're going to be discussing during the event. So financial literacy, we're going to do employee engagement and recruiting. We're going to talk about community engagement, and we're going to have another topic that is super important for every woman in business, which is goal setting for growth. So those are the topics that we're going to be discussing. Each one of them will explore not only, how to get more money, more funding, how to prepare better, for an exit strategy, how we can leverage our relationships and how we relate to the community. If anything that we've learned during the pandemic is that the community is important, not only for the growth of your business, but also for the resilience of your business. So we're going to be talking about that, and a fun, kind of great workshop to end with a goal setting for growth.
Absolutely. So it is at the Clyde venue on Tuesday, September 7th. It starts at 6:30. We'll have some networking and get to know some vendors that are going to be participating from 6:30 until 7. And then our other SCORE mentor and owner of a Clarity and Mindset program, Victoria Baylor, she will open and just get everybody kind of, mentally leave the day at the door, come in, and now let's focus on you, and let's focus on your business and what you want to do with your business and where you want to take it. The event is $25. You can, if you're not comfortable with attending in person, then you can attend virtually. To sign up for the event, you go to the website you see here, savannah.score.org, and then you take a workshop, and you will see the Women in Business and Evening for Professional Development that you can click on. And then just once you're into Constant Contact to fill out the registration form, all you have to do is choose if you want to attend in person or if you want to attend virtually. And it is open up to all female business owners. So we hope to see you there. We also have, if you are brand new in business or you're still in that ideation phase, we also have our 4th annual BizPitch competition coming up. And so you can visit bizpitch.com to look at past winners, past success stories, and the details for the future. But you should know that the application process opens up on September 10th, and that'll run for a little bit over a week, where you have a week to submit your business idea or your existing business. One of the caveats is that your existing business can have only been in business for less than 1 year. But all of that is kind of laid out into the bizpitch.com website, all of the different parameters. So if you want to apply for that, last year, I think the top 3 winners went home with $13,000 worth of cash and year of business services that were donated by different partners within the community. So it's a great opportunity. It runs just like Shark Tank. It's a great opportunity to pitch your business idea to other community leaders. You'll then forever be on the YouTube space, because all the past 3 years have lived out on YouTube and received lots and lots of views. So bring us your business ideas. Sign up for the Women in Business. Any other closing remarks, ladies? I'm so appreciative of all of you joining us this morning. Thank you so much. I think it was a really deep and great, meaningful conversation, very inspiring. Any closing remarks?
Yes. Thank y'all so much for inviting me to this. And if I may I share an event that I have coming up this week that's actually appropriate to this conversation?
Of course. Absolutely.
Awesome. So I actually have the Women's Business Center Savannah has an event coming up on the 25th. That's this Wednesday. 2 options, 12 or 4:30 p.m. And that is How to Get a Yes with the Small Business Assistance Corporation. That's actually in collaboration with SBAC. And it's just essentially talking about the local lending CDFI partner here in the Savannah region. And Angelique Serrano, who's actually the microloan officer, is going to be my co-facilitator for that conversation. That's super important because most of my DMs and messages are about like, hey, I want to get some money. And people want to learn how, and you're actually going to be able to have that conversation with the CDFI lender. That's somebody that you would go to if a bank would say no, for step lending programs and all of that. And you'll learn all about that. So that's September 25th, Wednesday, 12 p.m. or 4:30 p.m. And you can go to our website, aceloans.org/WBC-Savannah. Go to events and register. And I hope to see you there. And they're all virtual right now. So
Awesome.
I think if you are a person that is in business and you are trying to take it to the next level, or if you want to get some inspiration and you want to see what is the structure, and if you're in the Savannah area, even though you can join anywhere from anywhere in the virtual one, but if you're in the Savannah area and you want to get inspired by awesome women that are in business and you want to find out the structure and know who's who in Savannah to start, getting all those chats about like, hey, can you mentor me? Can you help me with this idea? Can you point me in the right direction? These are the events to attend.
Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so happy you're here in Savannah now.
Thank you. And I think that, the one thing I just wanted to say is our stories about transforming our lives, we're not the only ones out there. This difficult period that we've all had during COVID, this has catalyzed so many to think, how can I redesign my life? Women are starting companies at 2 times the rate of men right now. They're starting podcasts. They're side hustling on the weekends. They're figuring out new economic opportunities. This is a moment in time that we can redesign what's possible for women together. So I'm excited.
If I may, add to Vanessa's comment. So I have 2 more stats that I would like to close this with. So one of them is that 40% of U.S. businesses are women-owned, and that generates, $12.3 million. It's the amount of 12.3 million is women-owned businesses. So that's 40%. Women-owned businesses generate 1.8 trillion a year, trillion with a T. And we can add 5 more trillion if we close the gender gap. So why not make these 2 events, our contribution to close and add those 5 trillion? And so, when you're in your gratitude at the end of the year, you can say, I contributed to the 5 trillion that are going to be added to the economy.
I love that. Well, thanks you guys so much for joining us. Whitney, Delisa, thank you so much for all your work. Sorrel putting together the Women in Business event. Nita, we wish you the best of luck with your event this week. I'm sure it's going to be amazing. Vanessa, I think we're going to see you at BizPitch in some fashion, correct?
Correct. Yep. And you'll also see our company mentor.
Awesome. I love it. So make sure to follow SCORE on Facebook, on Instagram, follow the WBC, and, just keep in touch with us. We hope you have a great Monday.